Ladies and gentlemen, every single one of us walks into this room with a story we've been telling ourselves for years about who we are, what we're capable of, and what's possible for our future. But what if I told you that story isn't in fact, it's a choice? That the greatest limitation in your life may not be your circumstances, but the narrative you keep repeating in your mind. Today, we're not just going to talk about change, we're going to challenge the script that's been running your life, because once you own your story, you take back your future. Let's flip the page. Doing something new, but from letting go of the beliefs that have kept you stuck. Letting go of the need to be perfect. Letting go of waiting for permission. Letting go of the old story that says you can't. That release clears space for a new decision, a new action, and a new path. Mental shifts create breakthroughs because real change doesn't begin with external action, it begins with internal perspective. You can work harder, run faster, build more, but if your mind is locked in the same pattern, you'll keep hitting the same walls. A breakthrough doesn't come from trying the same thing with more intensity. It comes the moment you see differently, think differently, and begin to operate from a new internal standard. It's that shift in mindset that turns effort into effectiveness, confusion into clarity, and struggle into strategy. A mental shift also changes what you're willing to accept from yourself. When your standard shifts, your actions follow. You stop negotiating with your goals. You stop tolerating habits that drain you. You start aligning with behaviors that match your new belief system. You begin to act in ways that reinforce the new identity you've claimed. That's not motivation, it's alignment. And when your actions align with a higher vision, progress accelerates. Mental shifts happen when you question old assumptions. They happen when you stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what am I meant to learn from this? That single shift in language can change your emotional state, your decisions, and your direction. Suddenly, pain becomes purpose. Rejection becomes redirection. Obstacles become training. What looked like a dead end now becomes a doorway, not because the path changed, but because you did. All it takes is one powerful shift, one new perspective that reframes everything. And what once felt impossible suddenly feels inevitable. Not because the challenge disappeared, but because your relationship to it evolved. And that evolution always begins in the mind. Conditioning doesn't have to be complicated. It can be 10 minutes of focused breathing, visualization, powerful questions, or listening to something that uplifts you. What matters is consistency. The repetition builds emotional muscle. The discipline trains your brain to default to strength instead of stress. And over time, this conditioning rewires the pathways in your brain so that optimism, focus, and resilience become your new normal. Every day you're making choices, what to focus on, what things mean, and what actions to take. And those choices are all influenced by the state of your mind in the moment. When your mindset is conditioned, you're not waiting to feel good to do the work. You do the work to feel good. You prime your brain for gratitude, for strength, for possibility. You remind yourself who you are, what matters, and what you're capable of. That's how champions think. That's how leaders lead. They don't leave their mindset to chance. They condition it. The truth is, you're always conditioning your mind either intentionally or by default. If you wake up and scroll through negativity, comparison, or chaos, that becomes your mental diet, and your performance, your emotions, and your decisions will reflect that. But if you start your day by feeding your mind intentionally, by choosing empowering thoughts, reinforcing your goals, and creating emotional momentum, you take command of your life from the inside out. Daily mindset conditioning is essential because the mind, just like the body, doesn't stay strong on its own. You wouldn't expect to go to the gym once and stay fit for life, and the same goes for your mindset. It needs consistent training, feeding, and direction. Every day, life throws distractions, stress, criticism, fear, and uncertainty at you. If you don't intentionally prime your mind to handle that, the noise of the world will take over. Left unchecked, the mind will default to survival instead of growth, to reaction instead of response, and to doubt instead of belief. What you do daily, you become permanently. That's why mental conditioning isn't optional if you want to grow, lead, or thrive under pressure. The most successful people in the world don't have easier lives, they have stronger minds. And that strength is built one intentional day at a time. They understand that discipline of the mind leads to freedom in life. Because when your mind is strong, steady, and trained, you become unshakable no matter what the day throws at you. The story you choose to believe shapes your identity, and identity is what drives behavior. If your story is rooted in strength, possibility, and purpose, your actions will reflect that. You'll show up differently. You'll take risks. You'll persevere when others quit. But if your story is built on fear or failure, you'll self-sabotage, shrink, and settle. Your life becomes a reflection of that inner script. The most dangerous part is that many people didn't even choose their story. It was given to them, handed down from childhood, shaped by trauma, failure, or someone else's opinion. And unless you challenge that narrative, it becomes your prison. It limits your voice, your vision, and your potential. But the moment you realize your story is not fixed, it's fluid. You reclaim your power. You realize that just because something happened doesn't mean it has to define what happens next. People often wait for life to give them a new story, but it doesn't work that way. Life reflects the story you're already living. When you rewrite the narrative, everything changes. You stop saying, "I always mess this up," and start saying, "I'm learning fast." You stop saying, "This is who I've always been," and start saying, "This is who I'm becoming." And as the story changes, so does your behavior. So do your results. The power lies in authorship. You can be the editor of your story. You can decide what to keep, what to rewrite, and what to let go. The moment you become intentional about that, you stop being a character in someone else's plot and become the author of your own. Your future is not written in circumstance, it's written in story. And the most important question isn't what's happened to me, it's what do I choose this to mean? Because the answer to that will determine what comes next. When your mindset is set to limitation, everything becomes a threat. You see obstacles where others see opportunity. You question your worth instead of trusting your ability. You focus on what might go wrong instead of what could go right. And the worst part is, your mind will always find evidence to support what it believes. So if your mindset is wired for scarcity, for struggle, for self-doubt, you'll keep attracting experiences that Mindset is the master switch because it controls the power to everything else in your life. It's the internal setting that determines how you experience the external world. You could have all the tools, the resources, the opportunities, and still feel stuck or unfulfilled if your mindset isn't aligned. That's because your mindset shapes how you interpret situations, how you react under pressure, how you see yourself, and what you believe is possible. It's not what happens to you that defines your life, it's the meaning you assign to it. And that meaning is created by your mindset. But flip the switch and the entire game changes. A growth mindset, one rooted in resilience, curiosity, and belief in change, turns setbacks into lessons. It transforms challenges into training grounds. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this trying to teach me?" You stop fearing failure and start leveraging it. That one shift, deciding to rewire your mind, is more powerful than any strategy, more essential than any external change. This master switch can either keep the lights off, leaving you in fear, doubt, and hesitation, or it can flip everything on, giving you access to confidence, clarity, and direction. Most people don't realize how powerful their mindset is because it operates silently. It's always running in the background, filtering information, shaping expectations, and guiding decisions. And the real danger is that if you don't choose your mindset, the world will choose it for you. Your environment, your past, your upbringing, even your failures, they will start writing your mental programming unless you take back control. Your mindset also determines how high your thermostat is set for what you will accept in life. It sets the standard for your energy, your relationships, your performance, and your future. Someone with a powerful mindset doesn't just hope things will work out, they expect them to, because they trust in their ability to adjust, to overcome, to figure it out. That self-trust creates emotional stability, which leads to consistent action, which leads to results. Every breakthrough begins in the mind, and the people who lead, the people who grow, the people who create real change, they all have one thing in common. They flip that master switch. They made a decision not to live by default, but by design, not to be controlled by fear, but to take control with faith. Because at the root of every transformation, every comeback, every success story is a mindset that refused to stay off. Belief over circumstance is not just a motivational idea, it's the foundation of personal power. In life, circumstances are constantly changing. You don't get to control the weather, the economy, the opinions of others, or unexpected challenges. But what you do control, always, is what you believe about yourself, your potential, and your future. That belief becomes your anchor. It becomes the internal force that allows you to move through uncertainty, pressure, and pain without losing your identity or your direction. When belief leads, circumstances follow, not the other way around. When you believe in something bigger than your current circumstance, your mind begins to stretch. You stop reacting and start creating. You become more resourceful. You notice opportunities that you would have overlooked when you were focused on limitations. Your energy changes. People feel it. You attract the kinds of situations, conversations, and chances that only show up when you're aligned with purpose and certainty. And it all begins with belief. People often wait for their situation to improve before they change their mindset. They wait to feel secure before they commit. They wait to see results before they believe it's possible. But belief isn't something that comes after success. It's what drives it. The most powerful transformations happen not when things are going well, but when everything feels like it's falling apart and someone still chooses to believe in what they can't yet see. That belief becomes the fuel, the courage to keep going, the fire to act, even when the outcome is uncertain. Belief doesn't mean pretending things are easy. It means knowing that you are bigger than the problem in front of you. It's the conviction that no matter how tough the situation is, you have the ability to grow, adapt, and rise. That mindset doesn't come from luck, it comes from choice. It comes from repetition. It comes from refusing to let your past dictate your future. The world around you might say you can't, but belief is the part of you that says, watch me. Circumstances can be temporary, they're external, they can shift in an instant. But belief is internal, it's deeply rooted. It's the voice that says, this is not where it ends, this is just where it begins. The people who overcome, who rise, who lead, it's not because their path was easier, it's because their belief was stronger than their environment. They chose to see challenge as growth, not punishment. They chose to interpret failure not as a sign to quit, but as feedback to refine their approach. That decision, that level of belief, becomes a force more powerful than fear. Sometimes the biggest breakthroughs come not from no matter how strong the storm, belief gives you something stronger. It is the mental structure that supports vision, determination, and endurance. When circumstances try to define your limits, belief is what breaks through them. It's not about what's happening around you, it's about what you decide to hold on to within you. That decision becomes the foundation of everything that follows. Your mindset is like a thermostat. It controls the temperature of your thoughts, your energy, and your decisions. If you don't check it and reset it daily, it can drift back to old habits, limiting beliefs, and subconscious patterns. And the scary part is most people don't even realize it's happening. They think they're stuck, but they're really just untrained. They think they lack motivation, but what they really lack is a daily routine that keeps their mental focus sharp and intense.